Hari Om everyone. Let us begin this week's class on chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita with Gita Dhyana. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gita Dhyanam. Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Puranamurina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambattvamanusantatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishada Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patranetra Yena Tvaya Bharataila Purna Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradeepaha Prapanna Parijataya Stotra Vikraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamritatude Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dodha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dudham Geetamritam Mata Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Hari Om. Let us chant the name of the Lord for a few minutes. Okay, a warm welcome to everybody as we continue our study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. If you want to study chapter 1, those talks are all available on YouTube. Okay, where did we leave off? Well, a quick summary tells us that here in this chapter, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is about to begin his teaching to Arjuna. And what we saw last time were the first 5 verses or so. Let me there. Hare Krishna. Right. And it is a very dramatic point in the Bhagavad Gita. The two armies are arrayed. On one side you have Pandavas, and the other side Kauravas. On one side you have those who have decided to stand up for the welfare of the world, stand up for all beings, looking towards the future prosperity and goodness in humanity, those who are standing on the side of dharma. And on the other side you have those who have been taking advantage of their position of power and, motivated by greed, want to trample on everybody's freedoms and enjoy just for themselves. So you have the Kauravas. So you have these two characteristic forces that are just there in the universe all the time, historically actually arrayed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In the middle is Arjuna, on his chariot, led by his charioteer, none other than the Lord of the entire universe, in the form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And because of what we summarize as the Arjuna disease, because of Arjuna having fallen in his mental state into a whole overwhelmed state of sadness, Arjuna has dropped his weapons on the battlefield. He has dropped his weapons and he sat down and he doesn't want to fight. The horns have been blown, the kettle drums have been beaten, war has been declared between these two sides. And there in the middle of the battlefield, Arjuna, after giving a long lecture to Bhagavan Shri Krishna on all the reasons why he doesn't think he should fight, he puts down his weapons. During that whole lecture that Arjuna was giving to Bhagavan, the Lord didn't speak. Besides saying, Pashya etan kurun, look at these kurus. Beside those few words which were spoken via Sanjaya in the first chapter, Bhagavan didn't speak. Arjuna spoke. And we studied how his words revealed the human malady of selfishness. And that has brought him to his knees at a critical moment in history. So, thus, to begin the chapter, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, his longtime friend and confidant and close to which Arjuna has great bhakti, right? Great devotion to that Lord Krishna is going to speak. So you might think that he will speak in soft words to uplift Arjuna, but he doesn't. Looking at the delusional state of Arjuna at such a critical moment, he gives Arjuna shock treatment, just as you would apply the defibrillator for someone who is having cardiac arrest. But he gives the shock treatment through words. What does Bhagavan say? Famous lines in chapter 2, not chapter 1. Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam anarya jushtam asvargyam akirtikaram arjuna klaibyam mas magama partha naitatvayupapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktotishta parandava. So Lord Krishna shouts at Arjuna in these two verses of chapter 2. You can't even sing them because of the strength of the words. It would sound silly to sing. He's saying, Arjuna, and in so giving these words, Bhagavan in one stroke gives rebuttal to every single argument Arjuna has made in the whole chapter. He says, it is not befitting you in any way, Arjuna. Running away from the battlefield here, putting down your weapons, and giving all this talk. He was giving great dissertation on why war is terrible and all of that. All true statements, but given at the wrong time, and all given to serve his selfishness of not wanting to fight with his own people on the other side. The philosophy of convenience wrapped nicely in great talk about how he should be running away from the battlefield to looking towards the benefit of society, because killing is not good, and even if the other people cannot see that killing is not good, and they will kill me with weapons in their hands, if I have no weapons, that might be better. Like this, he gave a long talk, hoping that his appeal for ahimsa would move the Lord and he would be praised, so he could sneak away from the battlefield. But no, Lord Krishna makes very clear, nothing about what you're doing is right. There is not a single good point in anything you said. From every point of view, Arjuna, all your arguments are wrong. So Bhagavan didn't accept a single argument of Arjuna. And Arjuna, who is dejected, gets rejected by Lord Sri Krishna without sympathy in these words. Then, just like when you give the first shock, when they say clear, and then they give the shock for the person in cardiac arrest, right? If it doesn't work, they up the amperage and they go again. In the second verse, which we just, I can't say shouted just now, Bhagavan makes it very clear that don't think you're going to become any ambassador of peace. You have a weakness of heart that is very low and mean, Arjuna. And you should throw it away, cast it off, drop it and stand up, Arjuna, and fight. He says, Kshudram hridaya daurabalyam. This low weakness of heart you have. Tyaktva, having dropped it and given it up, uttishta parantapa, oh you scorcher of foes. People are frightened when they just hear your name. They burn with fear. So he's trying to remind him of his purpose with which Arjuna came to the battlefield. And we spent some time also reflecting on every single word that was given there. So much meaning is given in every single one of these words. Then, one point in all of that was Vishame. A simple point is there, that it's not like Arjuna came to this battlefield all of a sudden. There was a long, slow, decades-long build-up to this war. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself tried every means to avoid it. Years on end, Arjuna thought about fighting the Kauravas. Then, in all the different diplomatic methods that were used to avoid it, Arjuna was present. When war was declared, Arjuna was present. While they were gaining allies for the armies, Arjuna was present. He had all that time to raise these doubts. So, the lesson there, which I want to just highlight one point, once we have made up our mind to do something correct and right, and we have deliberated on it properly and taken advice and taken all the right means, when it comes down to the moment when the rubber meets the road, that is not the time to have doubt. That is a lesson for life. It is fine to have doubt prior to. In fact, it is good, because that will make you reflect and reflect and reflect. But once you have made up your mind, remember the words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the natural butterflies that might rise in the stomach. Tyaktva uttishta parantapa. Drop that and rise up to the challenge, like that. So this is the simple, ordinary advice we can take even from these two verses. Then, having heard these words, Arjuna himself also unmoved, still vishidantam, overwhelmed with sorrow hunched over there, sad. Bhagavan, you're yelling at me. And he now responded in verse 4, Katham Bhishma Maham Sankhye Dronam cha Madhusudana Ishubhi Pratiyotsyami Pujarha Varisudana. So he told, how can I kill them? These revered and respected ones like Bhishma and Drona. They deserve flowers, and you want me to fight with them with arrows? Ishubhi? No. How can I do it? Means he's actually asking. In his mind, he doesn't see it possible to inspire himself to go and actually fight this battle, when on the other end, the receiving end of his arrows will be Bhishma and Drona, both who acted as gurus in his life. And in the chapter 1, he also added to that. He is looking at all the different family members and kith and kin on both sides and seeing the devastation that will ensue. Right? And then where we left it in verse 5 is where Arjuna added now, how can he imagine a life where he will enjoy the pleasures of the kingdom and wealth soaked in the blood of these respective ones? So he's looking into the future and thinking, I'm not going to have any joy. There's no way out of this where I'm going to be happy. If I fight and win, I will have to enjoy a kingdom. And every time I sit there on the throne or enjoy all the pleasures that come with having wealth and prosperity and all of that, I will think, well, yeah, this is all blood money, blood joys that I'm getting. I killed my own guru to enjoy this. I won't be able to do it, Lord Krishna. How? How will I do that? How will I stand up and fight like you're saying I should? So this is Arjuna's argument. Right. Now, those words which we saw in the context of Bhagavad Gita last time, from Bhagavan Shri Krishna, Tyak again by Puja Swami Vivekananda ji. Uttishta, rise up, Jagrata, awake. Rise up, become alert. Rise up, awaken, enlighten yourself. So the Upanishad is saying it like that. And Bhagavad Gita is saying, Tyaktva Uttishta. Having dropped this thing, stand up. So taken together, one word is common, Uttishta. So for the ordinary sadhaka like ourselves, first what we have to do is we have to drop something and rise up. So we have to rise from something and rise to something. This is what the two phrases are explaining, right? So what is it exactly that we can take from this and remember in our life, oh yes, Bhagavad Gita wants me to rise up from this and rise up to that. How exactly can I translate these words from the battlefield scenario and put them into my daily life? Because this is really the exercise that is required and that is our purpose when we study the Bhagavad Gita, right? So Arjuna has to rise because he has fallen mentally on the battlefield, right? And we saw that fall is because he has identified himself only in a very narrow way as a family member. He is not seeing himself as a member of the nation, as a member of the side of dharma. He's only seeing with the lens, with the glasses of, well, I'm a family member and over there are my family and everybody else is not my family. He looks into his future and how he will live life. He'll think, well, I will live my life without these swajanam, my people. So looking like with that lens at the world, his whole emotion and his genuine concerns about his future all have come to bear down on him and crush him. But he's using the wrong lens. This is the problem. So what he has to drop, he said, take off that lens and look again at the world from his more natural, original, true point of view. So that will be the dropping. And thereby rise up when he has to stand up now and fight, Bhagavad Gita is not saying to all of us now, we should also rise up and go find a bow and arrow and a chariot and go start a fight. It means to say that Arjuna, having dropped this vision, he needs to become a vessel for dharma. He needs to embody the dharmic vision and let that come out through his actions. This is what he needs to rise up to. Bhagavan Shri Krishna will tell later on in Bhagavad Gita that he takes manifestation. Anytime the Lord takes manifestation is for this purpose. What purpose? To re-establish dharma. That which is responsible for upholding all things. This is why Bhagavan comes. So Bhagavan finds himself as the charioteer of Arjuna for the same purpose that he has taken manifestation. It is through Arjuna, at this moment, that dharma will be upheld. So, just by the presence of Bhagavan Shri Krishna as his charioteer, you get the idea that Arjuna is meant to do dharma. Because anybody who's on Bhagavan's side is on the side of dharma, on the side of upholding and supporting all beings like that. This dharma word that I've been using, what does it mean? It is a big word. And we saw it in brief previously. You have to take one simple meaning. If you have to take, it will be that which is responsible for upholding things, for maintaining things, the integrating factor in things. And you will find that if you study any aspect or any society or any grouping of people or any institution, there are things that uphold it, and there are things that can make it become destroyed, disintegrated, fall apart. Like that. But this dharma, this factor which integrates and upholds, which manifests in so many myriad ways, is eternal. This we have to know. And it is not something separate from the universe. It is built into the universe. Like how the laws of the universe, everything are all built into every atom. The laws that like gravity and karma and all that in the universe, they're not sitting somewhere else. You can go into anything and find it. Because they're inherent. They coexist with the universe. All of the universe is following the laws. All of the universe is upheld by the general dharma. Like that. The human being is given now a choice. And whenever choice is introduced, problems are introduced. This is why he has to drop something and rise to something else. Because he has a choice. Arjuna has a choice to run from the battlefield or stay. The choice is between dharma and adharma. Between that action which is righteous, which is my duty, which upholds society, and that action which is not my duty, which is not righteous, and which will become a disintegrating factor for society. The scriptures reveal that as a person follows dharma, finally what he gets is he regains his understanding about his original nature. The dharma we don't have a tradition where you have to do so many good deeds in order to get some result. That is not Hinduism. So the prescription of following dharma is not to get mukti. The prescription of following dharma is so that I can realize that I am already mukta. So by this path, Arjuna, the very act of embodying righteousness makes you more equipped to recognize some great potential in yourself. This is Hinduism. And the effect of following adharma means I block myself, tie myself away, turn myself to the other way from a basic truth that I am what I'm looking for. I block myself from divinity. So the human being, unlike all the other creatures, is given choice. And he can choose to become an embodiment of that principle which is manifest everywhere in the universe, and thus become a walking God in the world. A very living, breathing, talking manifestation of that greatness which is there upholding everything. Or he can follow the other path, adharma, which only perpetuates his confusion and his search and all of that. This is Sanatana Dharma. It is something like, the caterpillar. He can tie himself down with a cocoon, and through that he will transform into a butterfly. So he ties himself down with, like that, Arjuna is being asked, tie yourself down to Dharma. And through that you will transform, and you wouldn't believe what greatness is there inside of you. On the other hand, like the person who, we have a phrase, gets caught in their own web of lies, like that. On the other hand, instead of cocooning oneself to grow, you can cocoon yourself or tie yourself up in the web of adharma. And then you're stuck. These are the options that are available to every human being. There's really no other option. And Arjuna is right there at the middle point of the battlefield, at the middle point of his two sides of his mind also, and has to now be guided to make the right choice. If we take the path of adharma, what will happen? Because we have choice, all the other creatures in the universe who don't have choice, they are taken down with us. So, if we live greedy, selfish, destroying the environment, then the birds and the animals and all the various creatures and ecosystems, they're destroyed and they have no choice in the matter. They cannot leave where we are and migrate and get visa to go somewhere else where everything is better. They're stuck there only, right? And the opposite is also true. For the person who follows dharma, he brings harmony back to the universe if it is lost. It is like the tide which lifts all boats. So all beings at all times fall on both sides. And those forces are going on in the universe. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, it is behoven on you. It is your natural state to be dharmic. It is not your natural state to waver from dharma. Something has taken over you. And in the same way, that message is told to all human beings. It is your natural state to be part and parcel of this universal cosmic process called dharma. And when we fall from righteous action, what happens is that we are actually not living up to our what we're designed to do. Like that. This response from Lord Krishna is not going to move Arjuna. We'll see in a moment, according to our time. Arjuna has his mind is running, he goes on talking. Finally, he's going to ask Lord Krishna for advice. How can I lift myself from adharma, which I'm tempted to do, to dharma? And in response, Lord Krishna is going to give Atman-Jnana. He's going to give the highest Upanishadic wisdom. And this is a message for all of us. As we also want to lift ourselves out from all the habits in which we're tying ourselves down, it is essential for all of us to get a true understanding of what is there in the Upanishads, what is really at the core of dharma. Atman-Jnana it is called. Knowledge about one's self, one's original true self. The reason why such a deep and true understanding of what has been realized by saints and sages in the past is required by all of us is this. Without it, a person is fighting for good without really knowing the core idea. So it falls into the category of blind belief. blind belief. Arjuna is equipped by Lord Krishna with the direct means to discover his own clarity and confidence and true discernment about what's what in this universe. So he can see for himself. That is what Atma Gyan delivers. Not any, well, believe me because I'm Bhagavan Sri Krishna. No. And like that, each Sanatani must put first, as in their journey towards dharma, a commitment to understand things and get clarity and conviction for myself through understanding. So this is put first. So the first instruction is cast off your shyness, to delve deeply and apply your intellect, and rise up to the challenge of the Upanishads. Arjuna is also being told, cast off your selfishness. You're only thinking about my people. And not even my people. Really, fundamentally, he's thinking about his own joy. How will I live after this? Bhogan, Bhogan, Rudi, what is that line? Pradiggan. Rudira Pradiggan. With the enjoyment stained in blood. So he's thinking about how he will enjoy in the future. He's thinking about himself. He's not thinking, how will all of the next generation live under these Kauravas? And they all have family members also. They will suffer. He's just thinking about himself. So the translation for us is that whenever we want to give precedence to our own personal, selfish ends over what is good for others, we should cast off that smallness of heart and rise up to the challenge to participate in dharma. That is the instruction being given to Arjuna. Of course you will ask how. How? But we must be clear what Lord Krishna is telling and how he's telling also. This is the spirit of the Upanishads, the spirit of Bhagavad Gita, the spirit of the spiritual warrior, if you want to say. Rise up, strong, brave, scorcher of the enemy, in your own heart. Look towards the benefit of others. Cast out, drop, forget, put aside your worry about what will happen. And let your heart worry about what's going to happen for the bigger community, in which you are involved also. Right? In which you are involved. The other idea there in this dropping is that there is a force on the other side, the Kauravas, who are committed to the destruction of dharma. So it is not that Arjuna has time to relax and think about and all that. Immediately, if he doesn't act, there is a force coming down to cause destruction. That's his situation. Does it apply to us also? Is a good question. Those same forces that were driving the Kauravas to wipe out any sign of dharma so that they could expand their greed. You know the famous line from Mahatma Gandhi ji, that there is enough in this world for every man's need, but not for every man's greed. Greed itself thus thereby becomes a dharma because it will disintegrate. Not everybody can survive. That won't uphold life. So like that, the same forces which were running and pushing the Kauravas, they exist today. They're around us. And worse yet, they have been legitimized and branded and made into products which we have all been sold and convinced are the best. This thinking, this greedy lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it, that is the best pinnacle, and we should all search for it. So the Kaurava has been sold to us and is living inside our own heart, rent-free. Usually we think of the Kauravas as drug lords, and criminal types and drug pushers and all of that. But what we don't see is the true and real enemy that is there actually in all of our hearts. So the act of repeating adharmic ideas in our own mind, however beautifully presented, that is the enemy you have to cast out and rise up against. One such example of that surreptitious adharma that is there in my heart, in your heart, in everybody who would have grown up here in North America, which is, very openly, nothing wrong in it, stated as countries based on Christian values, is we all carry with us Christian ideas from birth. I could, before studying our own Hinduism, give you a better understanding of Christianity than I could for Hinduism. And I didn't actually go to any Christian school or anything. That's just from listening to songs and watching TV and all that type of thing, listening to music. And we don't realize that and I'm saying Christian, but I mean Abrahamic. We don't realize that not being equipped with those ideas which allow for the all-embracing nature that is part of Sanatana Dharma, being equipped with other ideas actually prevents us from acting out Dharma. For example, we use words like rest in peace and creation, and everybody's heard the idea, well, the world is made for us to enjoy. God is made in the image of man. There are two forces in this universe, we think, good and evil, and they're at odds with each other. There's something called heaven and there's something called hell, and heaven is a great goal to be reached. Or the idea that all religions are warmongers, and all religions are just blind belief based, and some religions are right and some religions are wrong. All these kind of common ideas which you will just encounter everywhere, none of them are really at all in any way, shape or form part and parcel of a dharmic point of view, a world view. See, instead of the idea of creation, Sanatana Dharma has beginninglessness, no creation. Instead of rest in peace, Sanatana Dharma has be right back, what we call as reincarnation, and a jiva, which moves from body to body. Instead of the world was made for human beings to enjoy, we have every living being is part of and parcel of one life. The life in any creature is the same, and life that is in me, as revered also, and not separate, part and parcel of one continuous, unbroken, homogeneous life, if you want to say. Totally different than, okay, here's a world, and there are creatures, and they're for me to enjoy. And their life has nothing to do with my life. Instead of God is made in the image of, man is made in the image of God. We have a Bhagavan which is present right now, all throughout this universe, and immanent also in all things. Instead of these ideas of good and evil at odds with each other, we look at that as one of the complementary pairs of opposites in the universe that cannot exist without each other. Instead of the idea of heaven and hell as goals in life, we could consider that as ordinary, another place with the same problems, that is temporary. Instead of the idea that all religions are warmongers, you belong to a tradition that has never invaded or attacked anybody. That is never told to you. Instead of the idea that all religions are belief-based and against science and inquiry, you belong to a tradition that uses Shraddha, or belief, only as a means to your own individual realization. And the active demand that each person applies their intellect and asks questions. All our Shastras are question and answer. Instead of right religions versus wrong religions and all, there can only be one right and all that, Sanatana Dharma there can really not be only one right tradition. There's really only one truth in this universe, and that thing has to be absolute. The truth of the universe is beyond description of any religion, because it's beyond somebody's idea. And once you describe something, you put it into words. The truth is that which precedes any thought. Therefore idea, therefore description. So Sanatana Dharma is different. And to think along the lines of Sanatana Dharma equips a person to act out that one true uplifting dharma, like that. People say science is against Sanatana Dharma because science is against all these modern religions. There's great argument going on between theologists and scientists and all that. That doesn't apply to us. We understand through a scientific approach that it is only dharma which leads to long-lasting prosperity. Not science and not blind belief. So the idea there is that in order for us to follow this instruction, we have to cast off our wrong understanding and rise up. That can be done practically by beginning to use the correct terms. So instead of creator, you have manifester, and so many ideas we will see. So using the right, proper Sanskrit words, because the words... Hariom. Yes. Casting off wrong understanding, casting off wrong convictions also. We all are given a conviction that God is somewhere else. But Sanatana Dharma teaches Vasudeva Sarvamati. Bhagavan is there, present everywhere, in everything, at all times. The only thing that keeps us away from that truth is our thoughts. So our thoughts and feelings and understanding really is what we have to face in life. At every moment, including this moment, you're free from the bondage of all those thoughts. This is Sanatana Dharma. So to let that conviction sit in, to know that, I have to claim this freedom which is there in my heart. And I'm suffering from, first and foremost, my own thoughts. But the world of my thoughts really is what changes what the world outside is. And I'll find Bhagavan right here, right now. So that is the conviction in the heart of a Sanatani. The idea that God is far away, God is the first cause, He kicked the first domino down, and therefore all the other dominoes have been falling. We don't need Bhagavan anymore. His job was to kick the first domino. The rest of it is the dominoes we find in life. We'll deal with it. So this is not a Sanatani idea. The idea we have about Bhagavan is different. It can be demonstrated very easily. You see, here we have a copy of Bhagavad Gita in my hand, right? This Bhagavad Gita is being upheld by my hand, right? This is to understand the concept of God in Sanatana Dharma, right? He's not the first cause. He is the present. How to understand that is like this. Just follow this example. Here, the Bhagavad Gita is sitting in my hand, right? So the cause for this Bhagavad Gita to be held up on the screen, right, is my hand. But my hand is being upheld by my shoulder, which is being upheld by my body, which is being upheld by this singhasan. So really, this book is being upheld by the singhasan, which is giving my body the power to sit up straight, which is giving my hand the ability just to hold this, right? But the singhasan is resting on the ground, and the ground is part of the earth, and the earth is resting in the laws of the universe. So if you study, the power to hold this thing up doesn't belong in my hand. It is borrowed power from the body, which is borrowed from the singhasan, which is borrowed from the earth, which is borrowed from the laws of the universe, like gravity. So, and those laws get their power from what? So right here, right now, by holding up this, you are seeing a power to uphold being borrowed by something which doesn't have the power to uphold, which is leaning on something, it is easy to blame the obvious factors which have surreptitiously inserted all these ideas. Starting from Macaulay, you can start. That was recent. Back. It is easy to do that. However, there is a principle there that if we are a victim of any force outside, it's only possible because we had a corresponding durguna in our own heart. So to the degree that we have become subject to this adharmic thoughts in our mind, is because at some point, to that same degree, we encourage some, let's just call it tamas, inside ourselves. And that particularly is seen when we, especially now here in Guyana and these Caribbean countries, we were forced, you want to say, but we chose to pursue the powers and enjoyments of the world we see around us at the cost of our own conscience, at the cost of our own convictions, at the cost of our own sanatana dharma. So when we have to think, act, talk in an adharmic way so that we can enjoy all the things that everybody else is enjoying, that is what we have to cast off. How to do that? Well, we have to redefine what it is as success. So cast off the bartering of our own convictions for status and position and being accepted and all that. Cast off that weakness and rise up to a new definition of success, a new definition of power, a new definition of enjoyment. So what is the new definition? Which is given there in Shastra. That to be a life, a creature, who is at ease, balanced in any circumstance, is a success. That person is a wise person. That person is the pinnacle. That person is a success. That's the one person you need at a time of stress. That's why it is written in so many elevators. In case of fire, remain calm. Because it's the calm person who will find the solution. So if you want yourself and the next generation to be successful, they need to engender this quality, which is classically called as chitta shuddhi, or purity of mind. The capacity to remain balanced, calm, good, all values intact in the face of challenges. That is the definition of success. Then you are living as a successful creature. You may not be rich, you may not be powerful, you may not be strong, but you take a mind like that and put them in the right circumstances and they can get all of that. Then somebody might attack and you might lose it, and then you put that and they might get it again, and that's how the world works. But this is the proper definition. Instead, we have traded that for, that such a person is educated. We traded it for, no, if you go to Harvard, you're educated. No. Here you're sitting there with whatever you have, and you have the capacity to remain calm, balanced, wise, present, with all your faculties and knowledge available, ready to serve. You're successful. We traded that. No. You wear a suit and tie and you can command a hedge fund. That is considered powerful. Although, at night, you have to go drink and do microdoses of drugs and this and that to keep your mind calm. So we traded our dharmic definition of success so we could enjoy that. So cast off that weakness, redefine success, and then go back into the world. This would mean tyaktva uttishya bhavata parantapa, like that. And there's much more to be said in this regard, but you get the idea. Many inferiority complexes are there in our mind. We don't feel brave to say we belong to this dharma. So we call ourselves Hinduism, and it's trapped in so many words. You don't belong to an ism, you belong to dharma, full stop. That which is responsible for upholding this universe. That's called dharma. If you want to call it Hindu Dharma, you call it Hindu Dharma. If you want to call it Sanatana, eternal Dharma, you call it that. But I belong to Dharma. You belong to Dharma. We belong, anybody who is influenced by the rishis, Rishiputra, this is who we are. And it is Dharma which is the medicine for the ills of the world. Because it deals with the basic root cause, which is the undesirable qualities in the human mind. This is what we belong to. So, with great pride, vocally, you say it. It comes up all the time that we feel inferior. It would be blasphemous to say that the shootings that are going on all across North America is a result of the Abrahamic values. That would be a terrible thing to say, and wrong also. But when people say that the poverty in Bharat is because of Sanatana Dharma's culture and all that, we accept that. Oh yeah, that's because of that. But that's just as blasphemous. We have to realize and stand up and be vocal. No. The thing that has always and will always help the world is the individual transformation which transforms the world in the direction of Dharma, which sees all beings as part and parcel of one. Give up that inferiority and stand up for Dharma. So this is the type of message and energy coming in just those 2 words of the Upanishads, rephrased here in Bhagavad Gita. Now, how to do it? That is what the rest of Bhagavad Gita is about. And finally, it delivers for a brave warrior on the battlefield, and it has delivered for so many members of society, and it can deliver for us. So we leave it here until we meet again next week to study again. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.